During the mediation, the lawyer hadn't even finished his speech when my husband yelled, "Hand over the ring and the watch. Those are my gifts." I silently placed the jewelry on the table and pulled a document out of my blue folder. After reading it, my husband was paralyzed. The lawyer pushed a thick stack of papers toward Marcus. The office, located on the 40th floor of a modern downtown high-rise, smelled of old paper and Marcus's expensive, sharp, almost aggressive cologne. "Sign here, here, and right here." The lawyer pointed with a massive fountain pen tipped in gold at the check marks made in pencil. "And place your initials next to every line. This is confirmation that you have no property claims against one another." The condo on Lakeshore Drive, 3 bedrooms, total area of 1,200 square feet in a luxury complex, remains the sole property of Marcus Thorne, as it was acquired prior to the marriage. The BMW X5, latest model, also remains with him. Ms. Keisha Van, do you confirm that you make no claim to the division of bank accounts, investment portfolios, and stocks? "I confirm." Keisha's voice sounded quiet but firm, without a single tremor, as if she were reading a line from a protocol. Marcus chuckled, pleased with himself. A smug smirk stretched across his lips, revealing a row of perfectly white veneers. He signed with sweeping, almost careless strokes, nearly tearing the thick paper with the nib of his gold-encrusted pen. He felt not just like the king of the situation, but a true master of fate standing above insignificant people. He was 35. He was the commercial director of a major retail chain. His career was skyrocketing, and life was in full swing. He had a young mistress, Tiffany, hungry for life with model looks and the demands of a movie star, who was waiting for him right now in a trendy cafe across the street, impatiently checking her watch. And he had just virtuously, or so he thought, gotten rid of the dead weight that was his wife without losing a single cent of his assets. "See, Keisha?" Marcus leaned back in the creaking leather of the expensive chair, not looking at her, but addressing the empty space in front of him where, in his opinion, she had already dissolved. "I told you. You leave with what you came with. You thought I'd let you take a bite of my pie? The pie I baked myself? Naive. I earned this money with sweat and blood, sleepless nights, closing deals while you were shuffling papers in the office for pennies, wearing out the seat of your pants." Keisha finally turned her head. In her dark eyes, there were no tears, no anger, no resentment, no reproach. Only a strange curiosity, frightening in its detachment. It was as if she were looking at a rare but highly unpleasant insect under a microscope, whose life activity aroused only scientific interest. "I just want to end this, Marcus. Sign it and let's go our separate ways. I have a lot to do." "A lot to do?" He laughed unpleasantly, barking like a wild animal. "What kind of business could you possibly have? Searching job sites for vacancies where the salary is minimum wage? Separate ways? Of course we'll go our separate ways. Only you'll go to your rented rat hole in the hood where it's a 30-minute walk to the nearest train station, and I'm going to celebrate freedom. By the way, Tiffany has already picked out new curtains for our bedroom. She said your velvet ones are so last century. Dust collectors, as she put it. Tack. And actually, she already wants to move to a house in the suburbs." The lawyer coughed, adjusting the glasses that had slid down his nose. He was clearly uncomfortable. He shifted in his chair. His face flushed slightly. His gaze slid over Keisha, as if apologizing for his client's wild behavior. "Mr. Thorne, let's maintain some decency. We are, after all, in a professional establishment. This is a legal procedure requiring respect for both parties." "What, am I cursing?" Marcus turned sharply to the lawyer, his eyes flashing with arrogance. "I am stating facts. A woman needs to know her place. I fed her, clothed her for 5 years like a princess, took her to resorts, Cancun, Miami, even to Turks and Caicos once, and zero gratitude. All I heard was, 'Marcus, let's save money, there's a recession coming. Marcus, why do we need a third car? We don't drive the 2 we have. Marcus, where is the money going? We have a plan for vacation.' "You're boring, Keisha, like an annual accounting report. Dry and numerical, no spark, no fire." Keisha smiled barely noticeably with the corners of her lips. This smile was cold, like the winter sun. "I am an auditor, Marcus. Did you forget? Boring reports are my profession and my passion, my life." "Exactly. An auditor. You're a corporate rat, not a wife. Well, now you can go make out with your reports." "Fine." He slammed the massive leather folder onto the table, raising a small cloud of dust that glittered in the sunbeams, breaking through the clouds. "Everything is signed. We are free. We can zero out these 5 years." "Yes." The lawyer began to hastily gather the documents into a neat stack with visible relief, as if getting rid of toxic waste. "You will receive the divorce decree from the court in 3 business days based on this mediation agreement. It comes into effect immediately." Marcus stood up, adjusting his perfectly fitted Italian suit from an expensive brand. He looked at his watch, a massive Swiss chronometer with a tourbillon that Keisha had given him for his 30th birthday, saving up from her modest salary for 6 months, denying herself everything. Then his gaze, predatory and grasping like a vulture, fell on Keisha's hand. On her ring finger, a thin white gold ring with a small but clean diamond, their wedding ring, still glittered. And on her elegant dark wrist, a matching refined Swiss watch, a gift for their 5th anniversary, bought by her when they still lived in a rented apartment and were barely making ends meet. Suddenly, Marcus's face distorted as if cramped by a spasm. It wasn't just greed. It was a pathological desire to crush, to destroy, to grind into dust, to leave scorched earth behind him. Victory wasn't enough for him. He needed the total, absolute humiliation of the opponent, a demonstration of his absolute dominance. "Stop!" he said loudly, with metal in his voice, and the echo bounced off the high ceilings. It boomed through the office. The lawyer froze with the stamp in his hand. His eyes widened in surprise. Keisha slowly raised her eyes. Her gaze was absolutely empty. "Something else?" "Yes, something else." Marcus stepped toward her, looming over the table like a hawk over prey. His shadow fell across her face. "Take off the ring and the watch. Those are mine." A ringing, cotton-like silence hung in the office. The lawyer dropped the pen from his weakened fingers. It rolled across the polished table with a dry, irritating click that seemed deafening in the silence. "Marcus," the lawyer said quietly, admonishingly, almost pleadingly. "These are personal items. Gifts, according to civil law, are not subject to return. It's not written in the—" "I don't give a damn what's written!" Marcus yelled, his face going dark with a rush of blood. A vein on his neck bulged, looking ready to burst. "It's my money. I bought that ring. I bought that watch. She didn't earn them. She sat on my neck for 5 years acting like a saint while I worked like a dog. And now what? She's going to go to a pawn shop to sell my gifts to rent an apartment and buy herself food? No way. I'm not a sponsor for ex-wives. Let her know her place." He slammed his palm on the table so hard that the crystal water carafe jumped and several drops spilled onto the glossy surface. "Take them off, fast. You are nobody and your name is nothing. I pulled you out of the mud. I'm sending you back to the mud. You leave naked, just like you came. Let everyone see that you are empty." Keisha looked at him, and in that moment, memories flashed through her mind. Not of the wedding where he swore eternal love, not of the first dates in the park when he seemed so gentle and attentive. She remembered other moments, moments that seemed insignificant then, but now arranged themselves into a clear, sinister picture. She remembered how 3 years ago, Marcus suddenly stopped showing her his pay stubs, saying the company had a new policy of strict confidentiality, and even wives were forbidden to know their husbands' incomes. She remembered how he started staying late at meetings that, for some reason, always took place in new, expensive restaurants. Judging by the smell of complex cuisine and expensive liquor on his clothes when he returned long after midnight. She remembered accidentally finding a receipt in his jacket pocket for a gold Cartier bracelet with the engraving "to K," which she never received. Back then, he wriggled out of it without blinking an eye, saying it was a gift for the CEO's wife, a collective purchase from the department. She believed him, or pretended to believe him, because she desperately wanted to save the family that, it seemed to her, still existed. But professional defamation is a scary thing, and at the same time, very useful for her profession. Keisha was not just an accountant. She was a top-class forensic auditor, a certified specialist in detecting fraud and financial embezzlement. She knew how to see what others tried to hide behind beautiful numbers, complex wordings, and piles of lies. And when the inconsistencies in the family budget became glaring, when he started yelling over a request to buy new boots while wearing a watch worth $500,000 and having secret bank accounts, she didn't throw tantrums with smashing dishes and tears. She began to work quietly, methodically, professionally, like a surgeon carefully lancing a boil. "Do you hear me?" Marcus was almost squealing now, spraying saliva. His face was twisted with malice. "Put the watch here. That model is $3,000, too rich for an unemployed divorcee. I'll leave you in just the thong I bought you." The lawyer tried to stand up. His face was ashen, like paper. His lips trembled. "Mr. Thorne, I ask you to calm down. Otherwise, I will be forced to call building security. This is unacceptable behavior. These are threats. This is criminally punishable." "Sit down," Marcus barked at the lawyer without even looking at him, as if he were empty space. "You did your job. You processed the papers, but this is family business. Keisha, I'm counting to 3. 1. Keisha slowly raised her right hand with a calm, fluid movement. Without fuss, without haste, with dignity. She slid the wedding ring off her finger. The diamond flashed in the lamplight with a cold, indifferent fire, as if saying goodbye to her forever. She placed it on the table. The gold hit the polished wood with a dull thud, the sound of the end of their marriage, final and irrevocable. 2. Marcus watched her movements greedily. His eyes burned with the triumph of a petty sadist who finally got what he wanted. Keisha unbuckled the strap of the watch. It was a good watch. She loved it. It was comfortable, precise, a symbol of her independence. But now it felt like a collar she was finally taking off, throwing off the burden of someone else's expectations. The watch lay next to the ring, reflecting the light. "Good girl." Marcus scooped the jewelry into his fist. His fingers trembled with excitement and anticipation. He shoved them into his trouser pocket like loot. "Now we're even. Now you know exactly how much you're worth. 0. You're a 0 without me, without a stick. You're empty space." He adjusted his tie, smirking smugly at his reflection in the dark window, where the evening city lights were already beginning to ignite. "Well, see ya. If you get really hungry, give me a call. Maybe I'll get you a job as a janitor in our office. We actually need people who know how to clean up dirt for serious people like me." He turned to leave. He had already grabbed the cold brass door handle, feeling absolutely free and invincible. "Wait, Marcus." Keisha's voice changed. It was no longer the voice of a submissive wife. It was the voice of a professional reading a verdict in a courtroom. Steel rang in it, sending a chill down the spine, piercing to the bone. This voice could not belong to the quiet mouse he knew. Marcus stopped and slowly turned around. A squeamish mask froze on his face, expressing an extreme degree of irritation. "What else? Want to kiss goodbye? Or ask for subway fare? I don't have any change. You know that." Keisha bent down to her bag standing on the floor by the leg of the chair. It was a simple but high-quality leather bag in which she usually carried her work laptop and business papers. She pulled out a folder, an ordinary blue plastic folder with elastic bands bought at the nearest office supply store. Not thick, but not thin. About 50 pages of dense text with graphs, diagrams, and statements. She placed the folder on the table in front of her, smoothing the cover with her palm, as if it were not a folder, but a sentence she was about to pronounce. "Sit down, Marcus. This won't take long, literally 5 minutes. You need to hear this." "I have nothing better to do," he snorted. His voice was still full of disdain. "I'm running late. Tiffany is waiting. The champagne is getting warm. We have plans for the evening. Tiffany will wait, Keisha said, and in her voice there was such confidence, such a steely note, that Marcus involuntarily took a step back. But Mr. Sterling doesn't like to wait. He is a man of action. Hearing the name of the CEO and sole owner of the holding company, a tough, principled man who did not forgive mistakes, Marcus shivered. He knew Mr. Sterling didn't joke. His shoulders tensed slightly. "What does Mr. Sterling have to do with this?" he asked warily, almost frightened, squinting, trying to find the catch. "He has to do with the fact that this folder concerns his personal money directly, and your, let's say, shadow activities. Sit and listen carefully." Marcus slowly, as if overcoming air resistance, as if every cell in his body resisted, returned to the chair and sat on the very edge. His fingers nervously gripped the armrests. His confidence, which until then seemed like an indestructible rock, cracked a tiny, barely noticeable fissure, but he still tried to keep face, feigning boredom. "What nonsense are you talking about? Did you decide to blackmail me? With what? That I sometimes took the company car on weekends or took pens from the office? Don't make me laugh. Peter values me. I raised sales by 30% in a year. I'm his right hand. He's helpless without me." Keisha opened the folder. Her movements were precise, economical, honed by years of painstaking work. She didn't rush, savoring the moment. "You raised sales, that's true," she nodded, and her voice sounded so detached, as if she were talking about statistical data, not a human life. "But you forgot to mention that in parallel, you raised your personal income geometrically at the company's expense." She took out the first sheet and turned it toward Marcus. It was a complex diagram with many colored arrows, rectangles, and numbers, but understandable to any financier at first glance. It was a diagram only a professional could draw. "What is this?" Marcus squinted, trying to grasp the essence, but his brain refused to believe what he saw. His dark skin took on an ashen gray tone. "This, Marcus, is the flow of funds under the contract with the logistics operator Vanguard Logistics. Remember them? You personally lobbied for them, signed an exclusive logistics contract with them 2 years ago under your personal responsibility. So what? A reliable partner? They deliver on time. There were no complaints." "Very reliable," Keisha agreed with killer sarcasm that sounded almost like a whisper but was louder than any scream. "Especially considering that the sole founder of Vanguard Logistics is your cousin on your mother's side, who lives in Gary, Indiana, and has been officially unemployed for 5 years. And the actual address of the company is garage number 45 in an industrial zone near O'Hare. I was there, Marcus, last week. There isn't a single semi-truck there. There's a security guard named Earl drinking tea in an old van up on blocks with a hole in the tarp. No warehouses, no logistics. But those are details. The main thing is the rates." She turned the page. There was a summary table with red markers and highlighted amounts. "You inflated shipping costs by 18% above market price. Vanguard transferred the difference to the accounts of a shell company, Orion Inc., under a contract for supposedly information and consulting services that no one ever provided. And from Orion's corporate cards, money was withdrawn in cash at ATMs on the outskirts of Chicago. And a surprising, simply mystical coincidence. On the same dates that money was withdrawn, large sums appeared in your personal secret account, which you opened at another bank and carefully hid from me. Cash deposits, monthly." Marcus went gray. His expensive tan suddenly seemed earthy. Deep, dark shadows lay under his eyes. You went through my documents?" he wheezed. His voice cracked. "That's illegal. That's a violation of banking privacy. That's a trade secret. I'll sue. I'll destroy you for this." "I am an auditor, Marcus. I know how to work with open sources, registries, bank statements, and connect the dots. But that was only the beginning. When I understood the scheme, I dug deeper. I spent the last 3 months on this while you were having fun with Tiffany, suspecting nothing, not knowing you were digging your own grave. Keisha took out the next document. It was a certified copy of a deed from the county recorder's office. The condo in the Gold Coast, luxury residential complex, Trump Tower. 3-bedroom with a view, 2,500 square feet. Bought exactly a year ago. Registered to your mother, Betty Thorne, a retiree who worked as a librarian all her life and receives a pension of $1,800. The market value of the apartment is $2 million. Marcus, where did your mom get $2 million? Marcus was silent. Small beads of cold sweat appeared on his forehead, shining in the lamplight. He tried to unbutton his shirt collar, which suddenly seemed tight, but his fingers wouldn't obey. The button wouldn't yield. I saved up. It's my bonuses. I saved for years. I earn good money. I helped Mom. A son has the right to help his mother. Your official salary, and even your bonuses, which I also calculated down to the penny, do not allow for such a purchase without getting into a mortgage for 20 years. But the apartment was bought for cash in a single payment, and that money didn't come from your payroll account. The source of funds is unknown, or rather, known to me, and now to the IRS, as well as the federal prosecutor's office. Keisha turned the page, opening a section with photos printed on high-quality photo paper. And here is the cherry on top. Office renovations in regional branches. Contractor, Master Build LLC. You personally signed the acts of completed work for the full replacement of HVAC systems in 5 flagship stores in major cities. Contract amount, $300,000. I wasn't lazy, Marcus. I took unpaid leave and flew to 2 stores last week, in Cleveland and Detroit. The old air conditioners are still there. They are 5 years old, dusty and squeaky. They were just power washed, and new inventory stickers were slapped on them. $300,000 vanished as if it never existed. You're lying, Marcus hissed. His voice broke, turning into a pitiful, scratchy sound. You won't prove anything. These are just papers you printed at home. It's Photoshop. It's a fake. In this folder, Keisha placed her palm on the stack of paper as if sealing his sentence, are the results of a full forensic audit of your activities for the last 3 years. Everything is here. Kickbacks from cardboard packaging suppliers at 5% from every large batch. Fictitious marketing studies for $70,000 that you ordered from a firm registered to Tiffany's best friend, who doesn't even understand what she does. Writing off functional retail equipment as defective and reselling it on eBay through proxies. The total amount of direct damage caused to the company is over $2.5 million, and those are just the amounts that could be tracked precisely. The lawyer sat pressed into his chair, trying to become invisible, as if to turn into part of the furniture. He understood he was witnessing a grandiose catastrophe, but professional curiosity kept him from leaving the office. His career was under threat if this story leaked out. Marcus jumped up, knocking over the heavy chair, which fell to the floor with a crash. The noise made the lawyer flinch and nearly jump out of his skin. "Give me that!" He lunged for the folder, his face twisted with rage. He reached out to tear, to destroy these papers, as if they were the only barrier between him and freedom. Keisha didn't even flinch. She simply pressed the folder down with her hand, looking him straight in the eyes. And in her gaze, there was no fear, only cold determination. Sit down, Marcus. Don't embarrass yourself any further. It's pointless. Give it. I'll tear it up. You have no right. I'll sue you for espionage. You stole data. That's prison for you. Tear it, Keisha said in a calm, icy, crushing voice. It's a copy. Marcus froze with his hand outstretched, as if he had run into an invisible but impenetrable wall. His muscles tensed, but he couldn't move. What is this? A copy? Yes, Marcus, the second copy and the first copy. The original with all attached bank statements, copies of payment orders, photos of equipment, screenshots of correspondence, and most importantly, written witness testimony from your former deputy Darnell, whom you unfairly fired 6 months ago accusing him of incompetence, and who with great joy told me everything and provided original chat logs, is sitting right now on Mr. Sterling's desk. He has already reviewed everything. Marcus staggered as if he had taken a sledgehammer blow to the gut. His legs gave way. He felt the world around him start to spin. He slowly sank back onto the chair, which the lawyer obligingly and fussily picked up, trying to help. "On Mr. Sterling's desk," he whispered with just his lips, which barely obeyed him anymore. His voice was pitiful. "Yes, I had a personal meeting with him today, at 9 this morning. While you were sleeping after a wild night with Tiffany, dreaming of your greatness and new millions, I showed him everything. Mr. Sterling and I have known each other a long time. Ever since I conducted the audit during the company merger, he has always respected my professionalism and honesty. But even he was in shock at the scale of your audacity, stealing from the man who gave you a job, a career, status, and trust. That is the bottom, Marcus, a pit you can't climb out of." No, he won't believe it. I'll explain. It's a mistake. It's a setup. You rigged everything. You fabricated it. You're taking revenge on me." At that moment, the silence of the office, dense and stifling as if before a storm, was torn by the ring of a cell phone. Marcus's phone lay on the table screen up, vibrating and jumping. The name Boss lit up on the screen. Marcus looked at the phone like a venomous cobra ready to strike, paralyzed with fear. He couldn't force himself to reach out. The phone rang and rang persistently, demandingly, deafeningly. The ringtone, which used to seem cheerful and energetic to him, now sounded like a funeral march for his life. The ringing stopped. A second later, the phone rang again. Now the screen said, "Security, Chief Gleason." Marcus, with a trembling hand, barely managed to pick up the phone on the third try. "Yes, yes." His voice was barely audible. Keisha watched his face intently, unblinking. She saw life draining out of it, saw the arrogance, self-confidence, and nerve vanish, giving way to an animalistic, primal terror. His eyes widened, his lips turned pale and shook. Sweat broke out on his forehead. "Mr. Gleason, this is a misunderstanding. I'm coming right now." "Why block?" "Wait, what badge? What police? Let me talk to Peter." "Mr. Sterling, I'll explain everything. It's all lies. Hello? Hello?" He pulled the phone away from his ear. The screen went dark. The call was dropped. They blocked my badge," he muttered, staring into nowhere with a glazed look. "Said I'm fired for cause. Embezzlement and grand larceny. Said the holding company's lawyers have already handed the statement to the federal prosecutor and the FBI. Said security is sealing my office right now and seizing servers, all my data." He slowly, with difficulty, raised his eyes to Keisha. In them was the animal, primal fear of a trapped beast with nowhere to run. "Keisha, what have you done? Do you understand what you've done? They'll put me in prison. That's jail time. It's over." "Quite possibly," she nodded. And in her voice, there was not a drop of sympathy, nor a shadow of doubt. Wire fraud, racketeering, committed by a group, federal charges, 5 to 20 years in prison, plus huge fines and restitution. "But I'm your husband. We're family. You couldn't do this to me." "Ex-husband, Marcus. We just signed the papers 15 minutes ago. You wanted this yourself. You were in such a hurry to see Tiffany. You wanted freedom. You wanted to leave me with nothing. You wanted the ring and the watch to humiliate me. By the way, they'll come in handy for you. Good criminal defense attorneys are very expensive, and you're going to need a very good and very expensive one." "Keisha." He would have fallen to his knees if the massive table hadn't been in the way. He reached his hands toward her across the table, as if trying to grasp a saving straw. "Keisha, call Peter. You spoke to him. Say it's a mistake. Say you made a mistake in the calculations, that I'm not guilty. I'll return everything. I'll sell Mom's apartment. I'll sell the car. I'll take out loans. I'll pay back every penny. Just don't let them put me away, please." "You won't be able to sell anything," Keisha noted coldly, like a verdict. "Mr. Sterling is a man of action. You know his temper. While we were sitting here, The company lawyers surely filed an emergency motion to freeze all your assets to secure the lawsuit. Your mom's apartment, your car, all your accounts, stocks, all of it will be seized in the coming hours, if it hasn't been already. The system works very fast when it involves big money and influential people, and you got caught in that system. Marcus's phone beeped again. A message arrived from the bank, the very one where he had the secret account. Dear client, operations on your accounts, cards, and deposits are suspended by request of the U.S. Marshals Service based on a federal seizure warrant. Marcus dropped the phone. It hit the table, but the screen didn't break. Marcus's life broke. It's over, he whispered. His voice was barely audible. Total collapse. My life. Keisha stood up. She picked up her bag. The blue folder remained lying on the table in front of the crushed man, like a tombstone, like proof of his fall. It's not a collapse, Marcus. It's an audit. The balance is reconciled. Debits and credits match. You took what didn't belong to you. You stole and lied and paid for it with the betrayal of a loved one. Now it's time to pay the bill, and interest in life can be very high. She looked at the lawyer, who looked paler than death itself. Thank you, Mr. Abernathy. I think we're done. Sorry for the scene. The lawyer silently just nodded with a trembling hand, wiping profuse sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. He was no less stunned than Marcus. He hadn't seen anything like this in 30 years of practice. He would remember this divorce for a long time. Keisha headed for the door. What about Tiffany? Marcus suddenly asked with a breaking voice to her back. The question was pitiful, ridiculous, childish, as if he were asking about a lost toy. She's waiting. The restaurant is waiting for us. Keisha stopped, but didn't turn around. I think Tiffany is a very pragmatic modern girl, Marcus. As soon as she finds out you're not a rich commercial director, but a bankrupt suspect with no home, no car, and huge debts to very serious people, her unearthly love will evaporate faster than your money from the frozen accounts. By the way, the car you arrived in, it's a company car. Corporate lease on the BMW 7 Series, right? Yes. Marcus's voice trembled with pain. Then I advise you to hurry. Security has surely already received the order to repossess the keys and the vehicle. You'll have to take the subway home. If, of course, you have any change left in your pockets. You won't have time to pawn the ring. You need ID, and they might detain you right at the entrance. Keisha walked out of the office. The door closed behind her softly, with a quiet click. But the sound of the lock seemed to Marcus like the crash of heavy prison bars slamming shut behind his back, cutting him off from the whole world. Keisha walked out onto the street. The air was frosty, stinging, and surprisingly fresh, cleansing. A light, fluffy snow was falling, covering the dirty Chicago asphalt with a white veil, as if washing away everything bad. For the first time in a long time, Keisha breathed fully. She didn't have a fancy condo on Lakeshore Drive. She didn't have a husband who once seemed like her support and the meaning of life. She had no illusions about a happy old age with him. But she had her profession, her spotless reputation, a clear conscience, and most importantly, a sense of self-worth that she had managed to defend in this cruel battle that had lasted for years. She didn't call an Uber immediately. She needed to walk. The adrenaline that had kept her going for the last 24 hours began to recede, giving way to a pleasant fatigue. It was not fatigue from defeat, but from victory, from a job finished. She remembered how it all began, not 3 days ago when she called Mr. Sterling, but 6 months ago. That evening when Marcus came home drunk and tossed his expensive jacket onto the armchair. A folded piece of paper fell carelessly out of the inner pocket. Keisha picked it up to put it away. It was a printout of a hotel reservation in Miami. An ocean view suite for two. The dates coincided with his business trip to Dallas. The name of the second guest, Tiffany A. Back then, she didn't cry, didn't make a scene, didn't break dishes. She sat at the computer. She knew Marcus's password. passwords. He was too lazy to invent a complex one. He used his birth date everywhere. She went into his email, then into the cloud storage, then into online banking, where she discovered numerous transactions that in no way matched his official salary. She worked at night while he slept the sleep of the dead after another party. Like a bloodhound, she followed the trail of money along every tiny thread. She found strange transactions, cross-referenced them with the dates of his trips, with the dates contracts were signed. She found Darnell, Marcus's former deputy, who had been unfairly fired, and met him in a cheap coffee shop. Darnell, resentful of Marcus for the vile firing, handed over copies of telegram chats where kickback schemes were discussed, and told her about dozens of other frauds. It was painful. Every new find was like a paper cut, thin but painful, penetrating to the very heart. But she turned off her emotions. She turned on the auditor. She gathered the dossier not for blackmail, but for protection. She knew that in a divorce he would try to leave her with nothing, humiliate her, trample her. She was preparing her nuclear football, and today she pressed the button. She took out her phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Mr. Sterling?" "Yes, it's Keisha." "Keisha, how are you?" The owner of the holding company sounded concerned, but warm, fatherly. "Did Marcus cause a scene? Is the mediator okay?" "We signed everything. Yes, he knows. I told him everything in detail." "You are a strong woman, Keisha, very strong. I would have just crushed him immediately, but you wanted to do it with style. I respect that. Security is already working. Accounts frozen, charges filed. He won't escape responsibility." "Thank you for your trust, Mr. Sterling, and for the opportunity." "Thank you, Ms. Van. You saved my money, and very large money at that. Listen, my offer stands. Director of Internal Audit for the entire holding company. Salary double what your ex made. Full benefits, company car, personal assistant, the works. I need people like you, honest and sharp-toothed." Keisha smiled. Snowflakes melted on her dark cheeks like drops of past tears. "I accept, Mr. Sterling. With pleasure." "Excellent. I'll see you Monday in my office. Rest over the weekend. You've earned it, like no one else." She put the phone away and looked at the sky. Life didn't end at 32. It was just beginning, and now she was the one setting the rules. In the mediator's office, Marcus sat motionless for another 10 minutes. The lawyer coughed delicately, rustled papers, spoke on the phone, hinting that the appointment time was up and he had other clients. But Marcus didn't hear. One thought spun in his head, pulsing like an inflamed nerve, like an abscess. How? How could she? She was just a quiet mouse, a domestic hen who understood nothing about business. He had fatally underestimated her, assuming that years of life together and his financial superiority had completely deprived her of will and the capacity for resistance. He judged by himself, thinking that if he yelled louder, wore more expensive suits, and drove a bigger car, he was the embodiment of strength and power. But true strength turned out not to be in the display of external attributes of power. Strength was in the truth, in impeccably gathered facts, in the sharpness of intellect, and in the ability to methodically, coolly wait for the right moment. Finally, he stood up. His legs felt like cotton, like they belonged to someone else. He shoved the phone into his pocket, feeling the cold metal of the ring and watch he had taken from Keisha 15 minutes ago. Now they burned his thigh like red-hot coals, like a brand of shame. He walked out of the office, walked down the corridor, not noticing people or their curious glances. He went down in the elevator. The guard at the exit looked at him strangely but said nothing, just slid his gaze over his face. Marcus walked out of the high-rise. The wind hit his face, icy and piercing. His gaze immediately fell on the cafe across the street with panoramic windows where he had agreed to meet Tiffany. There, behind the glass, sat Tiffany. She was scrolling through something on her phone, pouting her plump, injected lips in dissatisfaction. Apparently, she was tired of waiting. A glass of expensive champagne stood in front of her. Marcus wanted to go to her, but stopped. What would he tell her? "Honey, I'm destitute. I'm about to be arrested." Let's go to my mom's place in Gary. We'll live on her pension and share the two-bedroom with the Marshalls." At that moment, a tinted SUV with the logo of his company's security service pulled up to the office building, where Marcus's shiny black BMW was parked in the VIP spot. 3 sturdy men in black uniforms with impenetrable faces got out. They moved quickly and smoothly, like a single mechanism. Marcus froze behind a pillar, trying to merge with it. He recognized them. This was Mr. Sterling's personal guard. Ex-military, feared by all employees of the holding company. They walked up to Marcus's car. One had an electronic duplicate key in his hands. The car chirped, unlocking the doors. Marcus instinctively jerked, wanted to run, scream, "That's my car! What are you doing?" But his legs were rooted to the sidewalk. It wasn't his car anymore. It was the property of the leasing company paid for by the holding company. A guard opened the door, sat in the driver's seat like he owned it, adjusting the seat for himself. Another began to take Marcus's personal items out of the trunk. A gym bag, some boxes, an umbrella, spare shoes, and simply set them on the dirty snow right in the parking lot, carelessly. The engine roared powerfully. A minute later, the BMW, his pride, his status, his symbol of success, drove out of the parking lot and dissolved into the stream of cars, taking his past life with it. On the asphalt, the bag with his gym clothes lay orphaned, which Marcus had forgotten to take out. Marcus stood pressed against the cold wall of the building. The wind whipped the flaps of his unbuttoned coat, chilling him to the bone. He felt cold, very cold, shivering. He needed to go to Tiffany. He had nowhere else to go. Maybe she would understand. Maybe she had some savings. He had given her jewelry, transferred money to her card. He crossed the street, nearly getting hit by a car. The driver braked sharply, honked, and cursed him out. But Marcus didn't even turn his head. His gaze was fixed on the cafe. He walked into the cafe. Warmth, the smell of coffee and vanilla, quiet music. Another world. A world to which he no longer belonged. Tiffany saw him and grimaced, her face changing instantly. "Well, finally," she said loudly, attracting the attention of neighboring tables, who immediately turned in their direction. "Where have you been? The champagne is already flat. I'm sitting here alone like an idiot. And why are you so ashen? Where are the gifts? Did you take the ring from that hag?" Marcus sank heavily onto the chair opposite her. His knees gave way. "I took them," he said dully. His voice was barely audible. "Show me." Tiffany's eyes lit up with a greedy, predatory gleam. She held out her hand. Marcus took the ring and watch out of his pocket and placed them on the table. "Oh, classy." Tiffany immediately grabbed the ring and started trying it on. "A bit big, but it can be resized. But the watch, I'll sell it. Not my style, outdated model. By the way, did you reserve a table at Mario's for tonight? All my girlfriends already know we're going there." Marcus looked at her and for the first time saw not a beauty from a magazine cover, not a goddess, but a predator. An empty, stupid predator who saw him only as a wallet on legs. "Tiffany," he said, "I have problems. Very serious ones." She looked up from the ring. "What problems? Did you forget your wallet? Should I pay for the champagne?" "I was fired, just now." "Meaning?" She frowned her perfect micro-bladed eyebrows. "How fired? You're a director. You can't just fire a director." With a bang. "Peter found out about the schemes, about the money, about Mom's condo, about everything." Tiffany froze. The champagne in her glass stopped bubbling. "So what? So what now?" "So everything. Accounts frozen. Security just took the car. The condo." "The condo too?" "They'll take it. I have nothing, Tiffany, absolutely nothing, and most likely they'll open a criminal case against me, a very big one." In Tiffany's eyes, a thought process began, fast as a calculator. She instantly recalculated all her benefits. "So you're bankrupt and you could go to prison?" "Yes. I need help. I need to crash somewhere for a couple of days while I find a lawyer. Can I stay with you? I have nowhere to sleep." Tiffany slowly, with ostentatious disgust, took the ring off her finger and placed it back on the table, right next to the watch, delicately with 2 fingers, as if it were soiled with dirt. "With me?" she asked. Her voice became icy. "Are you crazy? I rent a studio with a girlfriend. Where would I bring you? And anyway, I didn't sign up for criminals and problems. I need prospects, not your drama." She grabbed her handbag, which contained the keys to the studio and credit cards. "You know, Marcus, I think we need to take a break. A very long break. You sort out your affairs, and then call, maybe. If suddenly everything works out for you." She stood up. "And the bill?" asked Marcus. "My cards are blocked." "That's your problem, honey. You're the man." She snorted. "And by the way, you were right. Your wife isn't stupid. The fool here is you, a total fool." She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking on the tiled floor. On the move, she was already taking out her phone, probably to unblock one of the backup options in her contact list. Marcus was left alone. Before him lay a bill for $70. The ring and watch he had so greedily taken back, and an empty champagne glass. A waiter approached the table. "Will you be paying by card or cash?" Marcus patted his pockets, found a crumpled $5 bill and a handful of change. I don't have any money," he muttered. His voice was hoarse. The waiter stopped smiling. "Then I'm calling the manager and the police. This is a business." "Call them," Marcus said indifferently. He lowered his head. "Call the police. They're looking for me anyway." While the manager called 911, Marcus asked for a glass of water. They brought it. He drank in small sips, trying to calm the frantic heartbeat echoing in his temples. In his pocket, the phone vibrated. The name Mom lit up on the screen. Marcus closed his eyes. This was the most terrible thing. This was worse than the loss of money, work, and freedom. "Hello, Mom." His voice trembled. "Marcy." His mother's voice shook. She was crying hysterically, sobbing. "Marcy, some people in uniforms came here, banging on the door, saying they are U.S. Marshals. They say the apartment is seized. What is happening, son? You said everything was honest. You said it was your bonus. I believed you so much. Mom, don't open it yet. I'm coming right now. I mean, I can't come. I don't know." "Marcus, they say they're going to break down the door. They're showing some papers about embezzlement. Son, tell them it's a mistake. This is our apartment, my pension, my savings." Marcus listened to his mother sobbing and understood that he wasn't just a thief. He was a killer. He had killed his mother's peaceful old age, her faith in him. He had betrayed the only person who loved him just because, with unconditional love. "Mom, forgive me. Forgive me. Open the door. Don't resist. It's true. I am to blame for everything." "What? Oh, Lord, Marcus, what have you done?" The connection cut off. Apparently she dropped the phone, or she fainted. Marcus put the phone on the table. He felt tears flowing down his cheeks. Angry, hot, helpless tears. Tears of absolute despair. 2 police officers appeared at the entrance to the cafe. The manager pointed at Marcus. "That's him. Refuses to pay and is acting erratically." The officers approached the table. "Sir, your ID?" Marcus took out his driver's license. "Marcus Thorne." One of the officers checked his tablet. "Well, look at that. An APB just came in for you. Fraud, wanted by the FBI. You are extremely unlucky, citizen, or lucky that we found you first." "I'm ready," Marcus said. He stood up. His voice was empty. "Hands," commanded the officer. Marcus held out his hands. Handcuffs clicked on his wrists. Cold, hard. The steel click was louder than any words. "And the stuff?" asked the second officer, nodding at the ring and watch on the table. "That's evidence," said Marcus. "Take the stolen goods." He was led out of the cafe. People looked at him. Someone was filming on their phone. Former rich man, fraudster, loser. It was written in their eyes. There was no sympathy in them, only curiosity and schadenfreude. They put him in the squad car. The car smelled of gasoline, sweat, and hopelessness. Through the wire mesh of the window, he saw the street. The snow had intensified, covering everything with a white, clean layer. The city was getting ready for Christmas. Bright garlands were lit everywhere, lights twinkling. People were rushing for gifts. For Marcus, the holiday was canceled for the next 5 to 7 years, possibly forever. Evening descended on the city. Lights lit up everywhere, turning it into a fairy tale. Keisha stopped at a Whole Foods near her building. She bought a bottle of good wine, some expensive blue cheese, exotic fruits, and a large cake decorated with berries. She had no one to eat it with, but she wanted a celebration, a personal celebration. She arrived home to her small 2-bedroom apartment. There was no designer furniture here, but it was cozy. Here were her books, her soft blanket, her favorite mug with an owl on it. She poured wine into a glass, turned on quiet jazz, which filled the apartment with soft, enveloping sounds. Her phone chimed. A message from Darnell, Marcus's former deputy. Keisha, thank you. I just don't know how to express my gratitude. I was reinstated. Mr. Sterling called personally, said it was a mistake, bringing me back with a raise. You are a miracle. Drinks are on me when we celebrate. Keisha smiled and typed, Happy for you, Darnell. Work honestly. We'll celebrate later. Then she opened her laptop. An email from the holding company's HR director was in her inbox. Ms. Van, we are sending you the offer for the position of Director of Internal Audit. Please review and sign. We expect you on Monday at 9:00 a.m. at the central office. Regards, HR Department. She opened the file. The salary amount was such that Keisha whistled. It was 3 times more than she earned before, and most importantly, it was independence. Full, absolute financial independence, which she earned with her labor and her intellect. She walked to the window. Snow covered the courtyard with a clean white blanket. The dirt was gone. Somewhere out there, in a holding cell, Marcus was sitting right now. Most likely, he was being interrogated. Most likely, he was scared, cold, and lonely. Keisha didn't pity him. He made his choice. Every time he transferred money to a fake account, he made a choice. Every time he lied to her, looking her in the eyes, he made a choice. Every time he bought a gift for his mistress with family money, he made a choice. He chose this path. Now she made a choice, and her choice led her to freedom. Keisha raised her glass of wine and clinked it against her reflection in the dark glass of the window. To a new life, Keisha. To the balance. To justice. She took a sip. The wine was tart and sweet at the same time, like the taste of victory, which she had suffered for and deserved. The weekend was ahead. She would sleep in, go to a spa, buy herself a new dress, and on Monday, she would put on a strict but elegant suit, take her blue folder, and walk into her new, spacious office. And no one would ever dare tell her again that she was worth nothing, because now she knew her price, and that price was very high. She was independent, strong, and free. If you liked my story and want to hear more, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to support me, you can do it through Super Thanks. It would mean a lot. In the comments, tell me which city you're watching from and what time it is so I can see how far my story reaches. I've added 2 more life stories on the screen just for you. Click one now and let's keep spending time together. Much love. See you soon.